And what's up with the negative connotation of simp? Like, what's wrong with being a simp? Isn't that what everybody kind of wants? Everybody wants somebody to simp for them.
I think you want, in theory, but then when it happens, it turns into like, oh, you're whipped in a bad way.
Ooh, it is. It's like the reverse whipped,
I
almost.
think it's becoming that. It was kind of cool at first, and then here we are, 2021, and you don't want to be a simp.
I want to go back to whenever simp was cool because I miss that. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is another installation of the CWU Student Media Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Bazette, here as always. And this is the place where the student media comes together to discuss current and upcoming content. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We have 3 brand new guests today who have never been on the podcast before. I'm really excited to talk to them. And I don't want to waste another second. Let's just jump right into it. These guys have a lot of good stuff to say, and I really like what they've been putting out lately. So I just want to get right into it and talk to them, and that's what we're going to do. So thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, everybody. I'm here with Taylor Johnson from Pulse. She is the social media manager. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty dang good. You've actually wrote some pretty interesting stories. I understand that right now you're working more with the social media side of things, but I want to talk about some of the stuff you've written in the past. I know it's the issues might not be out on stands currently, but they're still available on the website. Am I correct?
You are correct. We're trying to push more to the website for sure due to COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the website's popularity has increased a little bit since people can't have access to the hard copy issues.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
People
Cool.
spread around the state a little bit.
That's good.
Really pick it up off the newsstand.
Well, you know, if you're listening right now, that's your cue to go over to pulse.com and check out some of these stories. The first one I want to ask you about is called Peering into the Culture. Can you tell us a little bit about this story?
So I wrote this one pre-COVID in the studio, and Maddie, our former EIC, actually pitched it to me because she knew that I liked to write weirder stories, I guess. And I actually got to talk to someone from Ramthus School of Enlightenment down in Yelm, if you're familiar.
I am not familiar, but maybe a quick Google after this will be sufficient.
Yeah, people at home, Google search.
Okay.
And it was pretty interesting. I got to read one of the transcripts from their meeting, actually, just to learn a little bit more, because they do kind of get a bad rap, but they've got other stuff going on. They're just trying to teach people some different things, I guess.
To be enlightened and whatnot?
To be enlightened, yeah. Reach a different plane.
I don't want to spoil too much about the story because I'd like people to go read it, but it was, not what I expected. That's for sure.
We interviewed Dr. Stahelski here at Central, and he had some fun stuff to say. He teaches a class on groups like this.
And wait, so what department is he from?
Sociology.
Sociology?
Yeah, sociology majors don't come for me.
Yeah, no, it's a scary thing. They say you never want to date a sociology or a psychology major because you'll learn too much about yourself. Scary stuff. Well, okay, that's one of those stories that I don't want to like pry into too much because I just think people need to go out and read it for themselves. But go read Peering into the Culture. You guys, it's still up on the website. It was a couple issues back, but it's worth a read. It's quite interesting. I want to also ask you about your Ted Bundy story because he's a Washington State infamous serial killer, and he actually murdered somebody at Central. So I'd love to ask you about that story a little bit.
She is mentioned in the story. So that one was at the next issue after Peering into the Culture because that one did pretty good, and we got to interview someone who works at a serial killer museum. Maddie actually got to do that one. And sorry.
No worries.
What did we do in that one? Oh,
Maddie did tell me about the museum. I remember when she went and did that.
Because that was right when all the Netflix stuff was coming out, and I was really interested in it. I kind of fell down like a hole and watched all the things that you could, like every
we all did.
Ted Bundy video movie you could watch. I've seen it.
Yeah, no, I that was a weird time because it would be like you'd go out, see your friends, and then it'd be like 30 seconds, you're all talking about serial killers. It was like the weirdest time because that was like
We felt
the hot
everybody
topic.
over. We were all talking about the same thing. And did you know that that girl, or what was her name? There is a memorial to her
Right.
outside
Outside
Bardo.
of Bardo, right? I should
I
probably
remember
know her name.
begging my friends, like, let's go look at it. I want to go see it. And no one would go with me. I went by myself.
Well, it's like not even it's I lived in Bardo Hall freshman year and it was like it's kind of like out front and there's like a convention center to the side. I think it's called
By the
Wellington's
west, yeah.
something, but it's like yeah, it's right outside that and it's kind of like unnoticeable, not unnoticeable, but like I walked by it every day going home every day and then someone
No,
was
it's
like,
there for
"That's the memorial."
sure.
I was like, "Oh, I never realized that's what that was." No, I mean, not to be disrespectful to her. I'm sorry. I should probably know her name, but I don't. But yeah, it's it's kind of wild to think that, you know, the Bardo that currently sits there wasn't there at the time, but I think Bardo Hall it got remodeled, so it was like a
Yeah.
different like shape and different kind of form of a dormitory. But I'm not really sure what it looked like, but I always wondered like,
It
is
looked like
this?
a motel.
It looked like what?
It looked like a motel. It was white and you could see this like fire escapes on the outside.
That's creepy. That's the like perfect place for a murder. I
And
feel like.
Susan, her name's Susan. She was leaving a RA meeting. She wanted to become an RA.
Oh God.
And she
Wait.
walked home alone.
So she. It's okay. My phone went off during this interview as well. Um. uh. I always wondered like the location that they chose for that memorial is that's not like where she got murdered, right? That'd be kind of messed up.
No, I don't. I'm not. Don't quote me on this, but I don't think so. I just think it was because she lived there,
Okay.
lived in
That's
Bardo.
that's probably good. I feel like it probably shouldn't be like this. I don't want to know where that happened, you know? Like and then
I
it
think it
seems
was the library parking lot,
oh,
but don't
well now I know.
don't
Luckily
quote
I
me.
don't live in Ellensburg anymore. I'm doing this remotely. We don't have too much time. The Ted Bundy story is great. Go check it out if you're still riding that Ted Bundy train, or if you want to hop back on the Ted Bundy train. You know, I know this was written around the time that everyone was watching the movie and the documentary, but it was an interesting addition to all that stuff that was coming out at that time. So go check it out. I also want to you wrote a story with Maddie who was on last week and has been on before about rats. I want to touch on that a little bit.
So we got to interview a couple pet store employees about how rats are a little bit of an unconventional pet from the outside, but
Hmm.
rat owners are rat people through and through. They talk about their have different personalities similar to dogs,
Like
and
dog owners have, or you mean dogs themselves have different personalities and rats have different.
similar to like similarly to rats. How a
Oh, okay.
dogs can have different personalities. Rats, because you think of like sewer rats, but domestic rats are different,
So
and they play basketball.
the rats play basketball.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is news to me. I'm gonna need you to go into that a little bit more. What do you mean?
So instead, like little wiffle balls, and they take them in their mouths and like jump through hoops. There's videos online. Go check it out.
I will. See, I've seen the videos of rats doing cocaine. I've seen the videos of rats doing just about everything, but I have not seen rats playing basketball. Is it like connected to your story? Like, does the
Hey, go
basketball
check
have
out the story.
what's that?
Can't say. Go check out the story.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we don't want to spoil anything.
You don't want to spoil it.
Don't want to spoil it. Even though it's been out. This was a previous issue, right? Like, it's not the current
It's
issue
from
that's out.
spring, this issue 2
Okay.
of last spring.
So go check out the Rats guys. They play basketball. Apparently, they're not just for drugs anymore. Um, and then also, I heard that you interviewed was it the former president of Crocs?
She's the current president, Michelle Poole.
The
I
current,
interviewed her when she was still an EVP, and then I think pretty soon after that she was promoted.
and that was for what was that for a story or was that just for fun?
I just got to do a Q&A with her
For
over
Pulse, right?
over Zoom for Pulse, yeah. And
Wow.
it's in the issue, and then online you can check out some extra questions that I
Sorry,
asked.
which issue was that one? Sorry,
Spring.
I know I'm like springing all these. There's like
I
the
have it. Wait. Spring 2020 issue 2. It's in the same issue as the rat story.
Okay, cool. So if you've got that spring 2020 issue, or if you go on the website to look at the rat stuff, excuse me, I think you should check out the Q&A with because Crocs are one of those things that it's like, it seems like it's not that hard to make, but they've mass produce. Like they're just
Oh,
foam,
but
and
they're
I don't.
not.
And then, but like everyone likes Crocs, right? Like they're just, you can just slip them on. And there's two kinds of people. There's people that don't like Crocs or don't want Crocs, and then there's people that do like Crocs and that want some Crocs, and then there's liars. That's what I've always
That's
been
how
told.
I feel. I used to work at Crocs, so I have a lot.
A lot of
10
Crocs.
plus. I have like definitely 10 pairs of the classic ones that you think of when you think of Crocs.
Yeah, I used to be a camp counselor, and they had like a Croc ban because they didn't consider them like safe enough shoes, but they would let kids wear Tevas, and like we may or may not have kind of staged like a mini protest to let people wear Crocs. I'm just
Be
gonna
the
leave it at
Crocs,
that.
man.
But yeah, and you can customize them. They're great. I'm not paid or sponsored at all by Crocs anybody. I'm just trying to say like,
Mhm.
but yeah, Q&A with the Croc lady. That's awesome. Like, how did that come into place?
So I used to work for the company. I worked at a retail store on the west side, and I kind of knew what their emails looked like because of like my manager had one. So I kind of just I looked at the website and just shot out a bunch of emails to higher ups, I guess,
That's awesome.
kind of based on what I knew their email was going to be. And she was the only one that got back to me.
That's
Shout
that's
out to
called
Michelle.
that's called being a good journalist. Just kind of guessing what someone's email has to be by default. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's like, there's a certain point after reporting for a little while that you can just kind of like guess anybody's email, I
The
think. And
worst
that's
thing that can happen is she'd say no or not reply.
absolutely, yeah. And that's the mindset you got to have. Taylor,
Mhm.
that is awesome that you did that. And look what happened. You got to interview the president of Crocs. So it worked. Nice job. And then let's see. You also I think that's the most recent issue that has been released. The 2020 vocab was that. So that was
2020
interesting.
vocab.
That was interesting because we were introduced excuse me, we were introduced to a lot of new words this last year or so, like words that if you'd gone to 2019 and said like the word COVID, I'd be like, I don't even know what that is. And
Or
honestly, I didn't know what certain words meant that just get thrown around all over the time now, like unprecedented. That word is, I hear that word every day. I didn't know what that meant in 2019, and I was a journalism major. So like, what other kind of words were on that list?
Well, honestly, I really campaigned for simp, and they said no.
And what's up with the negative connotation of simp? Like, what's wrong with being a simp? Isn't that what everybody kind of wants? Everybody wants somebody to simp for them.
I think you want, in theory, but then when it happens, it turns into like, oh, you're whipped in a bad way.
Ooh, it is. It's like the reverse whipped
I
almost.
think I think it's becoming that. It was kind of cool at first, and then here we are, 2021, and you don't want to be a simp.
I want to go back to whenever simp was cool because I miss that. Like, I literally wasn't there for that. Man, that's the world that I want to live in, where you can simp and you can be loved for it.
You can be appreciated by someone, I guess.
I guess so. Well, Taylor, I'm getting kind of low on time. I want to end on your guys' social justice issue. I know you worked on some stuff. I know you've been the social media manager, but I heard you kind of collaborated for some stuff on that.
For yeah, the social justice issue, I did put together that list of 10 words that have
Mhm.
been maybe resurfaced or introduced in 2020, and then I put together 5 free ways you can fight for social justice.
And is there a way that you can maybe like tell us what some of those are without spoiling the entire article?
Without spoiling the entire article, there are definitely free ways to do it. You think of maybe donating as the first one, donating money, but you can donate your time online.
Donating
And
time, yeah, that's something people don't think, because time is the most valuable asset that you have as a person.
I think
So
it's important to raise your voice if you have the ability or the privilege to do so to help other people who can't.
yeah, that's an excellent point. I agree. Well, Taylor, I think it's probably time that we skedaddle, but I really appreciate you coming on today. Is there anything
Having
else you want to leave us with?
check out the website, CWPulseMagazine.com.
Do you guys have other social media pages you want to shout out real quick?
We're on Twitter at CW Pulse and Instagram at CW Pulse Magazine.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you guys consistently are putting out great content. As I told Maddie, I'm really proud of how you guys are handling this whole pandemic situation, because it would have been easy for all of us to just kind of like, fold our heads and just give up. But
I'll
you
try
guys have,
again next year for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And you guys have been doing a fantastic job. So thank you for everything you guys have done.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being on today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
We'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Okay, I'm here with Star Yavalikas, who is a senior news reporter at Observer this quarter. Is this your first quarter being considered a senior reporter?
Yes, it is. This is my first year at Central as well.
Oh, really? You're just getting
Mhm.
right into it then.
Yeah.
Well, I really some of the stuff you've been working on, it seems like it's all really tying together. The story you were telling me about right before this that you're working on, that's I think it's about to come out, right? This story that you're writing for the current upcoming Observer on
Yes.
this meeting that took place. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So last quarter, one of the reporters reported on a meeting that a subcommittee of the Ellensburg City Council that they had with the SAAC here at Central. So I am doing a follow-up article based on, have they started implementing anything? Because the meeting was regarding discrimination and racism within the Ellensburg City. Um, so I'm just kind of doing a follow-up on it to see if they are implementing anything. Have they done anything since then? And so far, it seems like they are starting to put things into the works, but we may not really see anything until April or so.
Is there any way you, like, without spoiling your whole story, can you tell us like what kind of things they're working on?
So far, it kind of just seems like idea pitches. I'm still trying to be vague. So it does just kind of seem like idea pitches that they need to put through the committee like twice, I think, and city council and everything. So it's kind of a long process, but they are really hoping to see an effect immediately.
What kinds of, have there been like allegations, or is it just kind of based around the current climate that I know Ellensburg has had, various protests and things in the last year. Are there certain things that Ellensburg police have been like, is that's specific to the Ellensburg police, or is it kind of just how can we implement changes that we're seeing all across the country, but in our town?
So it's not directly tied to, the discrimination, racism, and everything, but Ellensburg PD, I did just write an article on this. Ellensburg PD and CWU campus police, they are going to be implementing body cameras for their officers. So then when an officer is like there at like a traffic stop or something, they will have audio and visuals at all times because the audio is attached to the body camera, while previously I'm pretty sure it was attached just to the vehicle.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. That seems like a positive implementation. I can't see any reason that wouldn't, be a good thing. So, for both parties involved.
mhm.
Um, and did you say you wrote a piece on the body cams, or was that just part of your current article that you're working on?
That was my previous news article that was just released this week. So
And people can find that in the Observer that's like currently on the stands, right?
yes.
Okay, so if you're like near campus or in Ellensburg, you can find that in the most recent Observer, but it's also on your guys' website.
Mhm.
You
We
guys,
do
yeah,
have, yeah, we do have social medias and a basic website itself. So
yeah. I think last weekend, I'll go ahead and do it again this time. We talked about your guys' social media pages, and it seems like, with the current situations, the situation that we're dealing with, your guys' website is probably getting more traffic um, than people that are actually picking up the physical issue. So I've been trying to shout out the website a lot. I think you guys do a really good job maintaining it. Um, and then you also was it last week you had that opinion piece on like Facebook memes and stuff like that?
yeah, last week along with that body camera footage, because I did the news article, then I did an opinion piece. I did an opinion piece on, for some reason, a lot of people are believing like Facebook political memes over like genuine sources. I've seen many people, especially in the past few years, sharing like memes trying to just spread misinformation about a political party or about somebody in the spotlight. But it's like those aren't legitimate sources, you know. You need to actually go out and do your own research. There's fact checking for a reason.
Well, yeah, and as a journalist, doesn't this make your head kind of want to explode when you see things like that?
A lot.
Yeah, I had a situation kind of like that where somebody shared a picture that's this was a really common thing. It was about when they were still counting the votes for the election, and I think it was Wisconsin. They were like, "Oh, there were more people that voted than citizens in Wisconsin." Or sorry, there was more votes than registered voters in Wisconsin. And they were sharing this fake graph that like showed, and it took me 4 seconds to Google like that thing, and there's like dozens of articles saying like, yeah, there's a fake Facebook meme going around saying where they actually, I believe what happened was they used the numbers from the 2018 midterms and then just showed those numbers, and nobody noticed that they were just the 2018 midterms numbers and not the 2020 election numbers. Or it was something like that. I don't want to get it wrong because it was a little while ago, but I remember that going around, and I remember commenting on a couple things like, "Hey guys, just so you know, this isn't true." And I like linked the sources that there were dozens of sources already within a day like disproving this, and people
Mhm.
were really mad about it. And I was like, I didn't share any of my political beliefs or anything. It's just as another journalist, I want people to know when something is completely like manufactured to try and trick you, and
Mhm.
it is a huge problem right now. And it's from all directions too. It's not even, it's not like one source that we could stop.
Yeah, it's wild. I know a lot of them are including like images that are real, but then it's like misleading. So they might use like a quote out of context, or they might use a photo out of context, and they're like, "Oh, this is the story behind it," but it's not.
Yeah. And then a lot of people just the level of distrust with mainstream media right now is at like an all-time high. So then when you try to like show people like, well, that's not true, then they don't even believe the source that you're trying to show them. So it's like, I don't even know what to do at this point, because it's like, if you don't think any media can be trusted, but you're believing these memes and pictures that like you don't even know who made them, I don't really know how to get through to you at that point. It's
Exactly.
kind of hard because you don't there's no solution. It almost seems like there's no solution.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think yeah, I actually got in trouble for this myself. Um, a couple it was right when Instagram and Facebook started flagging content for like if somebody said something untrue, they would say like, you can see real COVID information here, or those kinds of things. I shared an image that was like, it was on my Instagram, my private Instagram account that only my friends can see, and it was supposed to be an old Facebook, or excuse me, old newspaper clipping of Donald Trump. And there was a quote that he said, like, if I ever ran, I would run as a Republican because I think they'd be easier to fool, or something like that. And I'd seen this picture a bunch of times, and I just posted it with like kind of like a meme dump. Like I just like posted all the memes that I had at one time. So that's what a bunch of me and my friends do. And it got flagged, and it turns out that was a completely fabricated news article. And so it goes to show it's not just one side either. Like I tried to post something I thought was funny about Donald Trump, and I got called out on it. So, you know, there's definitely like fake stuff all over the board. Even though right now it seems somewhat one-sided, I think it's definitely happening all over the place, and it's a huge concern for people like me and you who are trying to go into a field that people are like trusting less and less.
Hmm.
It's really scary.
Yeah, it's just that like if you start believing social media like news over genuine news outlets, it hurts us. It hurts actual journalists that want to be out there spreading the truth. And I just don't know how to get it through sometimes. It's frustrating.
I don't know either, because it almost seems like a lot of mainstream news sources too are kind of folding to, they realize people like that type of like information more than they like clicking and actually reading through an article. So I've seen even very respected publications, I won't name any, but like publications that have been around for decades that are very respected in the field, and the names of their articles will be like, you won't believe what, and it'll start like that, and it'll be like a total, and I'm like, no, you guys are supposed to be the good guys. Like, why are you shouldn't be doing the clickbait articles that, so it seems like I just don't want that to win. I don't want that to be the way people get information, because it seems like that's what's happening. And I think that's extremely scary.
Yeah, like clickbait and like cherry picked quotes and everything is really what's going on right now in journalism, and I just really don't like it. I don't
I
know.
don't
It's
either.
gonna affect me when I graduate and I try to find like a stable job. It's gonna be difficult if this keeps going on.
I agree 100%, because yeah, it's sad when you take journalism classes and when they want to show you an example of what not to do, they bring up some of the world's most famous journalists, and they're like, okay, I know everybody likes this guy, but notice how you know his opinion. You're not supposed to know his opinion. That's not what their job is supposed to be. And that's just a sign that the state of journalism is not where it should be at all. But luckily, I'm glad we have student journalists like yourself who understand that. And I'm glad we're still being taught the right way. We're still being taught the right way, even though even the mainstream ways are kind of changing, not for the better, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, and I think all, these pieces that you wrote, they all kind of tie in, and they're all very important. I'd like to have you on in the future to hear kind of how uh, this thing with the Ellensburg police and the campus police turns out, because I think this could really unfold in a variety of different ways. But
Oh, for sure.
so,
I was invited to do a follow up in a few weeks with them, like actually go see the body cameras and everything. So that could be something I could talk about.
that would be awesome. I would love to see how this turns out, because I was around when the stuff was going on in Ellensburg in the summer, and there's a lot of protesting and stuff going on. And I remember thinking, I want to see how everything turns out. I want to see if anything changes. So I'm still interested in seeing that. So thank you for reporting on this, because I'm glad somebody's doing it.
Of course.
Is there anything you want to say before we get out of here? We're trying to keep it a little shorter this time around.
Yeah, no, I'm good then.
Well, thank you, Star. I really appreciate you being here today, and you're doing some fantastic reporting. I hope we have you on in the future so you can update us on this current situation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here with Ray Green. Ray has he's doing all three student media outlets at one time this quarter, which is that's a big workload. So Ray, what made you decide you wanted to do all three at one time?
I always wanted to do a lot of media stuff anyway in my life. So taking all three of those on, I just thought it'd be a good challenge. I love good challenges, and I'm getting towards the end of my schooling, so I'm going to be graduating soon. And I think this heavy workload is going to get me prepared for my future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, and plus right now they need all the help they can get, as many reporters as we can have at one time on each outlet. And it's good to have people working at multiple of them at the same time, just for like the synergy aspect of it. But but this is your first quarter doing it, News Watch and Pulse, right?
Yeah, it is. So it's definitely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. Like I would imagine that you did Observer before, you said?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that, yeah, moving over to the broadcast side for Newswatch, like, especially this quarter with the kind of challenges you have to face, since a lot of people are you living in Ellensburg, or are you kind of working remotely?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver right now.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you've got to do all this stuff from your hometown, I assume. I mean, that's like, it's crazy to me that a lot of people are joining during this time for the first time. And it's like, when I did Newswatch, we would meet like every day. And the fact that you guys can't do that right now, that's, you know, but the fact that you guys are still putting stuff out, that's impressive to me. So, I mean, I think the way you guys have learned to adapt and overcome is, I've said that sentence like 500 times already on this podcast talking to people, but the student media is doing a really good job. What kind of stories are you working on right now?
So I'm actually working on this piece for Pulse. It's called Far From Home. It's about international students coming over to the U.S. and studying. I'm mostly focusing on athletes, just because I can relate to athletes, and also I just feel like I have more sources that I know of. There are people that are easier to reach for me. I don't personally know them, but I know of them. So like I'll hit up someone, and then they'll find a friend for me to talk to. And this piece is basically about um, just like what are the challenges, what's it like coming from a different country, learning about COVID. So I've interviewed a freshman, and like this, she didn't even go home for Christmas. so she didn't spend Christmas with her family and stuff like that. So it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a really interesting piece, and I think I'm gonna do pretty good on it because it's pulse writing is different than observer writing. So with
Yeah.
pulse, you get a little bit more freedom because you can kind of like freelance a little bit, I guess, and then for the observer, it's more just straight like to the point.
Yeah, no, like the newspaper style, like journalistic writing for print is definitely like there's really strict guidelines. And I remember when I first started, people told me I was a good writer, so I thought that would mean I was like a good journalistic writer. But like it's a completely different, like everything you learn about writing in like any English type classes, it's like out the window. They're like, we don't want you to sound fancy. We want you to like break it down to like the simplest possible form and just get the point across without having any bias or opinion. So it is a lot. It is the writing style is definitely something you got to get used to. But Pulse, you have a little bit more of like a voice, I think, in your writing. So you're definitely right about that. What kind of stuff you doing with Observer and Newswatch? Have you guys? I know that Observers. Have you guys gotten an issue out yet, or have you gotten to write anything in an issue yet?
Yeah, so I was on the very first issue. It was like so I'm on the leadership staff. So I appoint my reporters to doing stories. But in the first issue, it was all staff on that issue, and I wrote 3 sports stories in the sports section. One was about the women's basketball team, what they learned during quarantine and how they have grown since then, and it ended up being a piece about like how they adapted and just grew self-love, mental health, and stuff like that. And then for the men's basketball team, we talked about like their New Year's resolutions. So some of the incoming guys, the newer guys, talked about like what they were focusing on before they even came to the school, and I thought that was a really cool piece. And then the other piece was from one of my. He used to be one of my reporters, but now he got promoted to being the scene reporter. He did a story on the football team because I can't write about the football team because I'm on it. But it was.
I didn't know that. That's so.
Oh yeah, it was about basically winter conditioning would be right now. So with COVID, they are not allowed to do that stuff. So it was a story about how they're going to adapt with COVID and doing winter conditioning because usually this is the toughest time and the best time to get in shape. And so it took an angle about that, and then so that was the 3 stories that we basically worked on.
So they don't they don't let you write for the football team because you're on the team?
Yeah, because it's like a conflict of interest because like if I were to write a paper about my head coach, like I'm not going to do anything that
you can't,
like,
you wouldn't want that to influence. Like, I totally understand. That's cool. I didn't know that though, because I know a few different guys that have done, like I know Will Ortner really well, who was on the football team, and we've been in Newswatch for a little while, or we were in Newswatch together for a while. So I think it's a little different when you're like reporting on it for broadcast, but yeah, that's something I never really thought about.
Mm-hmm. You gotta watch because like I'm in a bunch of different stuff. So like I'm in SAC, and I'm in.
Can you tell us what that is, just for the viewers that don't know?
Oh yeah. SAC is it's a student athlete advisory committee. So we basically are a group of. We are appointed by our teammates to be the leaders of our team basically in the whole GNAC, which is the Greater Northwest Atlantic Conference.
Right.
And we basically figure out what we want to do in the community. So when it comes down to that, it's a lot of stuff that is like stuff that's really important to me because doing the community services, getting back to our community, who come to watch us play, come to our games, support us and stuff like that. So it's really important. I think that's a big thing to do too. So
yeah, so no, that's a good thing to be a part of. So you're part of you're not only part of the student media and you're part of the football team, but you're also part of SAC. So you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and I'm also a part of this social justice group that was just formed recently by Simone Brown. She plays basketball at CWU.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So she just started that movement, and I'm looking to be on one of her committees. That's
good, man. Actually, so you should come on some other time. We're getting low on time now, but You should come on and talk sometime about that group, because I've only heard recently about that group like forming, and I'd love to have the perspective of a member, especially someone who's on the student media.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm definitely down to do anything you need, man.
Sweet. Well, hey man, we're getting kind of low on time, but is there anything you want to leave us with before you get out of here?
No, I would just say to anyone that is listening, just take advantage of all your opportunities in life, and never be too shy to do something that is out of your comfort zone.
Hey man, that's a great thing to leave people with. I appreciate that. But
Yes,
that's
sir.
actually going to wrap up the CWU Student Media Podcast for this week. Thank you, Ray, for being here. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work, man. I can't believe you're doing all three at the same time. That's got to be insane, especially when also being on the football team. But I guess if anybody was going to take it on, it'd probably be a student athlete. I can see it. Like, that makes total sense. But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.